Hello, everyone. So, ever since my enforced confinement for a couple of months at the beginning of the year, um, I've been looking at taking up sort of hobbies or a new hobby that would get me out of doors a little bit. I mean, I do go out a lot. I do a lot of walking on Dartmoor, as you probably know, and another one of my interests or hobbies is filming the warships as they come in and out of Devonport and going down to the shoreline to film those. So that gets me out quite a bit. But I wanted something else as well. Another excuse to stretch my legs, get fresh air. Forget about worries of the world and get absorbed in something out of doors. And the first thing was thinking about, because I've always had a yearning to do this, is metal detecting. Um, so I looked into this, and unfortunately, in Plymouth, it's a little bit of a no-go. I mean, Plymouth is in some gorgeous surroundings, but unfortunately, much of the land is protected in one way or the other. You're not allowed to metal detect on Dartmoor, and Dartmoor comes right down to the north of Plymouth. So you move straight from the outskirts of Plymouth into Rowborough Down, which is part of the Dartmoor National Park. So all that area is cut off. To the east of Plymouth, there is a lot of National Trust property, Plimbridge Woods, Saltram House, and so on, which you can't metal detect on. And to the west of Plymouth is another beautiful area, but again, it's a country estate. Metal detecting is not encouraged on it. Not that any of those areas are particularly good metal detecting areas anyway, because you aren't going to find a great many artifacts or interesting finds on them. And then there's an awful lot of farmland around Plymouth as well, but again, for some reason, it does seem particularly difficult in this corner of the UK to obtain permission to metal detect on the farmland down here. And again, because of the nature of historic events that have occurred in Plymouth, or in the southwest in general, there's a little bit of a sparsity of there's a low density in potential artifact finds, and on top of all that, or maybe for that reason, there isn't actually, as far as I can tell, a metal detecting club based in Plymouth. And that, probably that is the reason that it's a bit of a metal detecting desert. And I would need to have joined a metal detecting or detectorist club, because I don't drive myself, so I would have had to rely on club outings and sharing lifts with members of the club and so on. And as the club doesn't exist, metal detecting was a no-go. So what else was there that potentially I could do? Well, back at Easter, my several members of my family came down to Plymouth for the Easter weekend, and one of them was my niece's husband, and he brought with him a drone. Now, I was hooked from the moment I saw him fly this. We were going around some, beautiful parts of the coastline and so on, and he took it with him, and I was really hooked on the idea of getting a drone. I'm keen on various aspects of photography anyway, and this seemed to be a new element, a new way of taking photographs of places and so on. And I just had to get one. So this is my choice of hobby. It has proved to be a little bit of a steep learning curve. There are a lot of regulations nowadays, ever since the problem that occurred at Gatwick Airport a few years ago. It closed the airport down, and you have to obtain. You have to take an online test and obtain a flyer ID. And you also, if your drone is over 250 grams, which this one is, you have to pay for an annual license fee and get your drone registered. Which I've done all that, but then again, in a similar kind of way to metal detecting, there is an awfully large area of the Plymouth surroundings where you can't fly a drone for one reason or another. You've not only got the regulations that you have to abide by when you take your flyer ID test in terms of not flying within certain distances of buildings and so on, either domestic or commercial or industrial or recreational areas. You have to stay clear of all those, so it makes it very difficult to fly within the boundaries of Plymouth. But then in the surrounding area, once again, Dartmoor forbid the flying of drones over Dartmoor. I find that a little bit of a kind of draconian measure, because a lot of the reasons they give would fall under the category of not abiding by the Civil Aviation Authority's regulations. You know, they say they want to discourage reckless flying and so on, but reckless flying is something that could be policed, you know, by the police and not by the Dartmoor wardens themselves. But anyway, that's going to be an ongoing issue. And again, the National Trust don't allow flying over their land. I'm a little bit vague at the moment about whether that just means their buildings and so on, stately homes and historical sites, or whether it includes the coastline, which again seems a little bit A, ridiculous, and B, hard for them to police. So I have to sort of explore that. And there's also a very large area when you go to these drone flying apps and so on, there's a high intensity radio traffic area that emanates from the east of Plymouth, where there's large radio masts that are communicating with naval vessels out to sea and so on. And I have phoned them up and checked with them, and in fact it is okay to fly a drone in that large area as long as you keep the drone within 500 meters of yourself. Anything beyond that, and there's a risk that the high intensity radio waves are going to interfere with your drone's flight, and you can get what's known as flyaways and so on. You can lose control of your drone. So I'm a little bit happier than that. So I was sort of, had to summon up the courage to take this out and actually fly it. My first attempt was my friend who I walk on Dartmoor with very kindly allowed me to take off from his allotment, and I took a little bit of footage there, but I was basically, that should be up on the screen now, running for you to see a little snippet of it. But I was basically learning the controls of how to fly the drone rather than the controls of how to take photography with it. But today went out over to the Mount Edgecombe estate over across the Tamar in Cornwall, and played around a lot more with getting some images. So I've made a sort of short 6 minutes, I think it is, a 6 or 7 minute video of some of the footage that I took over there. It's not very refined, as I say. I'm still learning. My drone footage is going to get a lot better as I get used to all the sort of software on the camera. As I said earlier, it's a very steep learning curve. But I had a really good day out this morning, and quite pleased with the results. Found a website that where it seems possible to download the music from this website and use it as the soundtrack to the footage, copyright free, as long as you acknowledge the creator of the music in your description of the video. So hopefully I'll be able to put this up and show it to you. And more to come on this subject in the future, and hopefully my footage will improve as my experience grows. So here's the footage. Thanks very much for watching, and see you in the future for more drone adventures.